Namo Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the beginning of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue on the Majjhima Nikaya, the second of the five Nikayas or collections in the Sutta Pitaka.
Now we're going to be talking about the right view. Well, to talk about the right view, how do we define it? And we can define it simply as something that is righteous, that is appropriate, and that is proper. And view is our seeing, it's our way of seeing things. So according to the mundane way, it's like we would see something correctly, properly, appropriately, without it being deviated. And in regards to the Buddha Dharma, and it's a view that is in accord with accords with the Buddha Dharma, with the truth. So from a mundane perspective, we have to see correctly, but from the Buddha Dharma, then it's actually very vast. It can be from something that is very small, very foundational. It can be from the karma, impermanence, or interdependent origination, and then it has to do with the view about everything being illusionary, and then about the nature of emptiness, about the view of the true inherent essence, all the way up to enlightenment. So if we have the right view, then what will automatically happen? Ultimately, we will be liberated. That's how it is in the Buddha Dharma. With the wrong view, we can never be able to transcend. But in the house of Zen practitioners, once you have the right view and you realize the right view, then immediately everything is accomplished. So in the mundane world, if we have the right view, then in our business, in our social activities, everything would be much better. So we will be able to benefit ourselves, and we also be able to benefit other beings, even in the societies. But here we're talking about having the right view so that we can attain enlightenment, so that we can be liberated. We're not talking about the mundane view of the right view, but now we're going to start talking about right view in the Buddha Dharma. So for example, if we want to talk about the right view about karma, cause and effect, well, of course, all of us know that whatever we commit, whatever deeds we commit, we will have to bear with the fruition. But in between causes and fruition, there are conditions. So for somebody who understands the karma, we can see that karma is actually very fair. It is very, very fair. But from causes to fruition, we are not able to directly see them. Right now, we only use inference but only, for example, only the dragon's daughter was the one who could see all the appearances of wrongdoing and merits. So, for example, we may think in a simple way, if we curse somebody, then we will get cursed back in return. And then if we say negative things or evil things, then we will receive the fruition of having somebody said negative things to us, or if we hit somebody and somebody else would hit us back. But that's only from our inference, from our reasoning, our assumption. But who in us actually could see through it? Only the Buddha could see through all of that. But in the Lotus Sutra, it was said that the dragon's daughter, the dragon king's daughter, could see everything, could see the path of the karma. So it is because she was able to gain realization and enlightenment swiftly, instantly, so she was able to see it. So we could, assume that karma or karmic deeds will bring us rewards or rewards or fruition. But now we can actually see it or not. No, we can, because we cannot even see things past the 3 lifetimes. Can we see something that happens can we see things that happen in the past 3 lifetimes of ours? No, we don't. We cannot. For example, we think that we become blind because in the past lifetimes maybe we saw people who suffer, but then we turn away. We did not try to help such a person, or if we heard somebody who was crying for help, but then we also turn away, and then so in the next lifetime we will become deaf. So actually that's our assumption, but you know, people who become deaf or who become blind, not because in the past they have turned away from people who were yelling for help or who were asking for help, and they saw it, they turn away. So actually we could use our reasoning to come up with a conclusion, but actually karma is very it's very profound. Actually, and it goes beyond reasoning. So let's say if in the past we cursed somebody and we think that in this lifetime somebody will curse at us, you think that that would definitely happen? Well, actually not necessarily, because for example, in the past lifetime we cursed somebody, but in this lifetime we have practiced and we have gained our hardship and we already become a saint, and then the person, the karmic the karmic debtors would come back and pay respect to us and make prostration to us. Then immediately the karma was already resolved. So you can see now that when people grow fruits, you know, they try to make a fruit out to different fruits, and now you are able to do that. So as far as karma is concerned, it's the same thing too. We have to be able to penetrate the karma of all three times, past time, present time, and future time. Otherwise, we won't be able to penetrate the truth of karma. For example, the Buddha told a story in the past. One day, King Bimbisara came to the Buddha and talked to the Buddha and asked the Buddha that there was something that happened that he could not understand. He said that there was a millionaire who just passed away. You know, he has so much gold and so much silver that you know, I asked the soldiers to count them, but I was not able. They were not able to you know, finish counting them. But this millionaire, he ate in a bowl that was broken, and his clothes are just like rags. And I just can't understand how this millionaire could live in such a condition. So the Buddha said that, oh, king, you know, 100 lives ago, there was a farmer who was working very hard on his farm, and every time he came to work in the farm or in the field. Actually, he was working in the field, and then he would bring food with him so that he could eat during lunchtime. And then at that time, he saw a monk who passed by who was very, very skinny and hungry, and he passes by, and so this farmer offered his food to the monk. And then after that, he went back to the field and worked in the field, and then he became so exhausted and he remembered about the food that he already offered to the monk, and he said, oh, in the future, you know, only those who can work hard, can have this kind of food. Otherwise, he regretted that he gave the food to the monk. But actually, this farmer actually offered food to one of the self-realized Buddhas. This monk was a self-realized Buddha, and so for that, he was able to take birth in the God's realm for 7 lives. And then even though he took birth in the God's realms, he did not live in the central place, but he lived in the you know, in the bordering places, and he was not able to eat good food even in the God's realm. So due to karma, he was able to be born in the God's realm and not being able to eat good foods. Well, but the good foods in the God's realm is still better than food in our world, right? And then for 7 lifetimes he took birth as a millionaire, but he was not able to eat good food. For every meal he had to eat stale food, and then he wore clothes that are that was just like rags, and even his car was not really a good car at all. It was and the reason after that, after being the millionaire for the last lifetime, he would take birth in the health realm. Why? Because because he was trying to steal the wealth from his brother so that he could become a millionaire. So he was very rich. He was filthy rich. But until after he passed away from this life, then he would take birth in the health realms and he will continue to suffer. So when we talk about karma, Buddha could see very clearly what kind of deeds will lead to what kind of fruition. So with the wisdom of an enlightened being. So that is called right view, because now if we sit here and we talk about karma, but we cannot see through or penetrate all the karmas of every being, then that is not right view. So the Dragon King's daughter praises to the Buddha and how the Buddha actually saw very clearly the appearances of wrongdoings and of merits, because the Dragon King's daughter had the ability to praise the Buddha as such, because she herself would gain enlightenment swiftly, instantly. So we are here sitting here, and we could tell that what we did could, so the Buddha was able to tell us what we did in countless lifetimes, and then what we did every day, and how we ended up being able to sit in the temple listening to the Dharma. And then the Buddha would also tell how long it would take for one person to gain enlightenment, and how gain arahantship, and how one person would end up in the hell realm after how many lifetimes. So if we sit here and we practice correctly every day, then the karma will transform, and then we will become arahat, we would become enlightened. So none of that under the Buddha's view is in seclusion. So everything becomes very clear. With clarity, the Buddha could see every tiny details. For example, even when somebody was smiling at another person, and then how this person did something to that person, and then in the next life, how they would meet one another again, and how they would transform their karmas, and then they would be able to practice more profoundly on the Dharma path. So whatever karma between this one person and that person, the Buddha would be able to see very clearly and thoroughly. But here we cannot. We were just making assumptions regarding karmas until we could gain, the supramundane powers like the Buddha. Then we would be able to see through everything very clearly and exactly. But right now, can we truly understand the karma? No, actually, we can. We just kind of understand it in a very general way, that we do good deeds and we will gain good merits, good fruition. Still, everything is just that it's due to our assumption about karma. For example, right? You met somebody whom you've never met before. He was a stranger, but all of a sudden, this person started to curse at you as if he had been your enemy for countless lifetimes. So you became very confused. You don't know why this person ended up cursing you like this. And then you came home and you kept thinking about it, and you thought, oh, this is so strange. I've never met this person before. Why did he cursing me as if he were my enemy? And then you came up with a conclusion. You would say, oh, probably because I've done something negative in the past toward this person. Maybe I've cursed her in the past, so that's why she's cursing me at this time. But that's all we could understand. We don't know. We don't know what happened in the past lifetime or 100 lives ago. We really don't know. And because even though we say that we understand karma in general terms, but we don't really have the perfect right view about karma. So to have the perfect right view in the Buddha Dharma is actually very different than having just general understanding. So the Buddha had said that our seeing, our hearing, our view, it's just a disease. It's a disease from beginning lives until now. So that's why sometimes we ended up being very confused due to our disease way of seeing, our disease view. So when we talk about the perfect right view, even if we just start with the karma, there's just so many things that we don't know because we just understand karma in general terms. And now next, let's say we talk about the right view about impermanence. We live a good life. We don't care if people, pass away elsewhere. But then our relatives start to pass away. Then we start to contemplate about impermanence. And we thought, my dad was just here, my mom was just here. And then we start to cry. And then we start to blame impermanence, that impermanence takes my dad away, takes my father away. And then we went to the temple. We make offering on behalf of our parents. And then we said, the evil of impermanence took my parents away. So we thought that is somebody who understands impermanence, and we think that we understand the Buddha Dharma, but no, that view is incorrect, because actually impermanence is the truth, is the ultimate truth. And if we blame on impermanence, then it's the wrong view. And I've talked about this many times already. And actually, in my view, if you have the correct view about impermanence, and right then and there you'll be liberated. And how do you see it correctly? For example, let's just take a sound as an example. Right now I'm speaking and I'm saying many sounds, right? So impermanence means that it doesn't exist forever. So after I say something, then the sounds disappear, and the sound are not being attached to us. The sounds don't cling to us. After they say something to us, even though it's good or bad, after the sounds are spoken, then they don't cling to us and they disappear, because the essence of sounds is impermanent. The essence of everything is impermanent, because due to impermanence, that we cannot cling to anything and we cannot grasp at anything. And this is the truth. Just look at the sound. How can you cling to the sound? How can you grasp at the sound? Even now we have a recorder that can record all the sounds that were produced, but then after the sounds are produced, and then they already disappear, even though they are being kept, in the archive, but then they cannot remain. So if somebody curses at you, then would the sound cling to us? No, they don't cling to us. But then why do we suffer when somebody curses at us? First they curse one thing, then the second time they curse again, then the third time, and then in the beginning we thought, oh, all the cursing is just like impermanent, but then slowly, if she keeps on cursing us, and we thought, oh, it's not impermanent anymore, it's real cursing. So if we only think of impermanence as something that is being destructive, or it's being destroyed, then you don't really have the right view about impermanence. I told you about my experience, how in the past I heard the sound of a belt. So that was the time when I could truly understand the sound of the bells. So when we hear the bells actually sounding out, we thought that is the sound of the bell, right? But no, actually, there was the time before the sound actually being sounded out. When it first started out very gently, and then how it got initiated, how it became a real sound. So actually, impermanence is not destruction. Impermanence just means that it's not ever existing. So actually, impermanence is the nature of becoming. If you only talk about impermanence as the destruction phase, then you forget about the becoming phase. So, for example, we were born as a child that only weighed about 3 kilograms, but without impermanence, we would forever remain as 3 kilograms, and we would not be able to grow to be 5 kilograms. So, if you don't think about impermanence as a phase of becoming, then you miss it out. So actually, impermanence makes things grow and makes things mature, and then it will transform and make things into something else. So impermanence is the change from the form, the change from appearance, as well as changing the location. So for example, the form or the appearance, meaning that from being to non-being, from young to old, and then the change of location, meaning what? For example, before we were outside, now we walk inside, we sit on a chair, and then that's changed. And then if we sit here and then we move around, we raise our hand, or we breathe, or we blink our eyes, those are changes. And our circulation, our blood circulation is also impermanent. So it means that it does not abide. When it does not abide, it's non-abiding, it cannot stop, then that is impermanence. It doesn't mean that it is destruction. So let's say before we were at home, and now we're in the temple, so that is impermanence. It doesn't mean that we already die when we're no longer in our house. That's just the nature of impermanence. So let's say we try to listen to the sound. Without impermanence, we cannot listen to the second sound after we listen to the first sound. And then let's say if we breathe in, but we cannot breathe out, without impermanence, then how can you live if you cannot breathe out after you breathe in? And then after you take a sip of water, without impermanence, how can you swallow? And then without impermanence, our heart cannot beat, and then we will die because our blood would become stagnant. So all the existence in this world is actually impermanence, and impermanence is actually the nature of living. Impermanence is living. Impermanence is lively. It's the source of existence. It's the life source. So impermanence gives us life force, and because it continues to change, it's ever changing, and ever changing is is our life force, and it is a symbol of our life force. We need it in order to survive. So if we understand that every moment is impermanent, every sadhana is impermanent, and every sadhana, every moment is ever refreshing, is ever new. So this is actually the truth, the ultimate truth. So all the movements in our body, all the movements in all the beings in all the world, impermanence is the movement of this whole universe. So if we understand impermanence in this way, then this is a force, a living force, because with impermanence, then everyone will be able to exist and to survive. But without impermanence, everybody, every being, would not be able to survive, because everything would just be blocked and be stagnant. Well, but then somebody said that, well, I'm living right now, and now I'm going to die. Some, death will come and take me away. So that is impermanence. Well, you can think of it that way, but that is not the ultimate truth, because impermanence has always been here from countless lifetimes until now. So in the past, we were born, and then we grow up, and then we grow old, and we die. So actually, in terms of time, it will remain, impermanence will remain. And then as far as space is concerned, there's impermanence everywhere throughout the cosmos. So whatever that happens, throughout the time, throughout space, without being changed, then that is the ultimate truth. Because whatever that happens throughout space and throughout time, exactly as it is, then it can be considered as the ultimate truth. So now you can see that impermanence is the truth, and the truth is actually the living force. So actually it does not take away something, but it represents its nature. So sometimes we study impermanence, and people say that, oh, there is the so-called ever-permanence within impermanence. But no, you cannot use such words as far as impermanence is concerned. For me, it's ever impermanent. Ever impermanent because it has been impermanent in the past. Now is impermanent. In the future is impermanent. Every moment is impermanent. Every moment is ever living. It's unobstructed, it's ever flowing, and it never stops. So then impermanence is actually the ultimate truth. Impermanence is the Dharma. So according to our understanding, when we are in meditative absorption, then we can see very clearly in our meditation how we were started as something that is very small, how the vibration, the current of our living started from something that's very small, and it went on and on and on. And the cycle of living, it's a living cycle that started from something that is very, very small. So that's why everything kind of functions and moves on according to impermanence. So everything that exists in our lives, everything that emerges in our life is the is the emergence of impermanence. And regarding impermanence, we cannot maintain it, we cannot cling to it, we cannot grasp at it. So if we can realize impermanence, then actually we are liberated. So here we're talking about realizing impermanence. We're not talking about just understanding impermanence, because for example, if we just understand it, then for example, if we lost some money, then we thought, oh yeah, it's impermanence. But then when we lost everything, we even lost our own shirt, and then we may even lose our life, then we would begin to blame impermanence. But actually, if we understand that this is the movement of impermanence, this is the truth of impermanence, something that happens so that we can actually realize impermanence. So for example, we're sitting right here and our head hurts and our finger hurts. So this is just the movement of impermanence. It's not normal. It's normal that it happens that way. It's ever changing. So for example, we were not sick in the past, but now we are sick. So that is the movement of impermanence. And if it is impermanence, and anything can dissolve. So for example, if we have a tumor that shows up, then according to impermanence, it has to dissolve after all. But it remains a tumor because there's something that is clinging within us. So that's why we cannot transcend. But actually, when you are sick and you have a tumor, then it means that you are being stuck somewhere, you are being obstructed somewhere. You did not let impermanence be carried out. So you can say that, oh, this tumor was not there, now it's there, but you have to follow impermanence, you have to disappear, you have to dissolve. I don't want you anymore, tumor. So you have to understand everything in this way, and you have to realize this view. If you can realize this ultimate view impermanence, then you'll be able to transcend even the three worlds, not just in this human world. So being or non-being, having or no having, everything is in accordance with impermanence. And impermanence does not have the intention to destroy us. You have to know that impermanence is trying to renew us, to refresh us. You have to think of impermanence in a very dynamic way, because the universe intention is to continue to renew us, to perfect us, to perfect all dharmas. But are we able to receive it? It is because of our attachment and our clinging that we don't allow the universe to change us, to transform us, to perfect us. Just like when we are sick, you know, don't think that being sick is bad, because after you are being sick and you know, the doctor told you that you are you have a terminal illness, then it's just like a death penalty for you. And then you start to go to the temples, you start to make offerings, and you start to listen to what the teacher tells you to do. And but before that, before you were sick, you didn't even care if the teacher calls you, oh, I don't know you, teacher. But after you became sick, then you start to change. And so if you understand impermanence in that way, then everything will become so wonderful in this life. And anything that comes to you in this life, then it is according with impermanence, then I'm sure it has good things to bring to you, and then you'll be able to live a very I guess productive way. And then if you understand impermanence in that way, your life will be so unobstructed, will be dynamic. So that is called the ultimate right view about impermanence. And if you understand this impermanence, then you have to understand that within this cosmos, it doesn't want to destroy you. It just want to perfect you. It just want to make you perfectly complete and whole. So we need to understand this. So let's say if we have used our but because we're so attached to this body, we cling to this body, we have lived with it for many years, and now we don't want to get rid of it. But you know, actually, if it's getting a little old, then you should try to, you know, get rid of it or change it into something else. Just like people in the West, when they drive their cars, they change their cars you know, very often, you know, when the cars are getting just a little old and they want a new car, just because they want to keep their safety. So now with our physical bodies too, if they're getting a little weak, then we can just get rid of them and let go of the old body, so that we can receive a new body. Impermanent is not to destroy us, but impermanent is to help us change to something new. So but because we don't think of it that way, we want to maintain this living body, but this body is you know, it's become exhausted. The living force in us, in this body, is being exhausted. We're not able to walk, we're not able to hold a rice bowl, we are not able to hold a spoon, but still we want to maintain this body. It is because of our clinging attachment. We want to cling to something that due to impermanence needs to be changed to something new. So then actually, if you understand impermanence in that way, and your body is getting weaker and weaker, then just let go of it. Just let it change. But if you can still have a good living force within this physical body, then of course you can keep it. But if you understand and could realize the view of impermanence, then we cannot suffer, because once you know, all our heart and mind, we can realize impermanence, and we penetrate the truth of you know, of that incident, or of that dharma. So that is called the ultimate true right view. So we can continue to discuss about interdependent origination, etc., but we can use impermanence to gain a true understanding the right view about everything that happens in the cosmos, about the Buddha Dharma, so that we can have the wisdom to penetrate the Buddha Dharma, and that is called the ultimate right view. And the right view is it's a view that doesn't swing on two sides. It doesn't deviate. It also the right view also does not rely on experience, does not rely on knowledge and the intellect, does not rely on anything. Then that is the right view. It does not rely on knowledge. It does not rely on anything. It does not have dependency. So we have to understand that the right view cannot rely on the Buddha, cannot rely on our masters, it cannot rely on all the things that we have learned. Do you believe it? Now we have to start to go step by step. For example, if you look at this flower, are you looking at it with your knowledge? Do you see a yellow flower? So the yellow and the flower is already your knowledge. If you're looking at something and you get rid of the concept of yellow, you get rid of the concept of flower, then is that the right view? At that moment when there's no knowledge, no experience, then you don't try to search for something in your past knowledge. It's not called this flower, this is not called this orchid, this is not called such a name. So when we look at something without dependency, without names, then without the object, without a subject, then it's a view of non-dependency. But if you're looking at something, still you see the object and still you see the subject, then it's not the right view. So how can you see something without dependency? So you don't rely on the faculties, and can you look for something or look at something without depending on the faculties? Can you do that? Yes, you can. And don't shake your head, because now we're talking about the ultimate right view, because when you have the ultimate right view, then you would have all the correct ways of seeing the Buddha Dharma. But if right now we depend on something to have the view, then that's not right. Just like the Zen Master Lam Te had said, ever since I've talked about the Buddha Dharma, I've seen no one who actually come to be in close approach with me, to be my to approaching me closely, because only the people who come here, those are the people who only rely on leaves and on blades of grass. And leaves and blades of grass are what? Are your intellect, are your knowledge, because they don't come to ask questions about things that are their personal practices. I'm stuck here, I don't know what to do, please. And then the teacher will be able to help you. But whenever you come to the teacher, you have all sorts of exchanges that are based on the sutra, are based on the knowledge of other people. So when we have communication with each other, we always rely on the books, we always rely on our knowledge, on our intellect. So then how do we return to the original source, where we don't have any more dependency? So if you want to define the ultimate right view, you have to say that the ultimate right view is a view without dependency. It's independent. It's a view of independence. So how do you become independence? So let's say if you open your eyes and you look everything without relying on your knowledge, then what is that? Does it have a name? No, it doesn't have a name. Because with a name, that means that it is dependency. If you have, if you call this gold and green and yellow, you call this with form, with appearance, with no form, or with no appearance. Everything like that, it's still dependency. We have to get rid of all those layers of dependency, so that whatever appears in front of us is true reality. It's just true existence. without names, without any any names being attached to it. But then if we depend on things and we come up with all these names, oh, this is the flower, this is the Buddha, this is the house. But if we see everything through names like that, then it's no longer the ultimate right view, because when we look at something and we say, oh, we're looking at the flower, then that is a flower that is appearing in front of us. It's no longer the true reality. It's not the true appearance. It just shows up in front of our eyes as pure suchness. So when we talk about ultimate right view, you have to think of it as being non-dependence. It has to be without dependency. So even if it's just the sacred words of the Buddha, if it's just the sacred words of a realized master, you cannot depend on them, because being dependent on something is no longer ultimate right view. And the ultimate right view here has to be the true reality that is independent. So now we talking about the right view, so that you can be existing in the right view right in this moment, right in this vivid presence. We're not talking about right view so that you understand about, so that you can practice. If you have a dharma to practice, if you have a method to practice, you have to be strenuous with one practice, then that's no longer the right view, and it may be the wrong path or the wrong dharma. Because if we rely on a practice, on a method to practice, then it's no longer independent. It's no longer independency. So if we have the right view, it means that whatever we see, whatever we do in this life, we have to see, we have to do it without dependency, without being dependent on anything whatsoever. So we have to try our best to remove all of our knowledge, all of our experiences from anything that we see or that shows up in front of our eyes. For example, when we listen, the sounds emerge, then we listen to the sounds, right? But what is our mistake and our errors? We think that oh, there's an object and there's a subject, so rely on the subject to listen to the object. But there's this knowing awareness that does not rely on the subject, does not rely on the object. It does not affect the object. It does not affect the subject, and the subject and the objects also do not affect this knowing awareness. This is the third person. So it is aware of what is being heard, and it is aware of that which hears the sound. So and they are not they don't stick to each other, they don't cling to each other. So that is the ultimate right view. The ultimate right view is something that remains as the truth throughout time and space, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't move. It doesn't mean that it is at a stoppage. It is ever refreshing. It is ever moving, but and it is ever changing. If we think that the truth is something being like a block, a solid block, then that's not the ultimate truth. So actually, this knowing awareness is ever changing, but ever changing meaning that it is continuously ever refreshing through space and time. So this knowing awareness is aware of all the different sounds, like the first sound, the second sound, the third sounds, without being dependent on any of the sound, on anything. So right now, if you want to have the ultimate right view, is it difficult? Actually, it is easy, but don't use the knowledge, don't use the intellect of the Buddha Dharmas or of the masters as your own knowledge and your own experience. We listen so that we can get rid of all the knowledge, so that we can get rid of the intellect. So if we're listening now, then we're just listening for the sake of listening. When the sounds emerge, and we know that the sounds are being heard by ourselves. So that means that the sounds are not ourselves. The sounds are not us. So we need to talk about this over again and be very thoroughly with this. And then the second step is what that which is listening to the sound. So there are two things. Object and the subject, and our knowing awareness recognizes that, is aware of that. Where is that knowing awareness? We don't know where that knowing awareness is, but this knowing awareness is aware of the subject and the object. But do the subject and the object know about this knowing awareness? No, they cannot detect it. Only the knowing awareness detects both the subject and the object. So then when we are able to receive this truth, then we will be able to realize this truth, but there's no more person, there's no more subject who can recognize this, who can realize this. Because when we try to look for the Dharma, we try to realize the Dharma, is actually our desire. But if we are we exist right in this vivid presence, and we clearly know that there's an object and there's a subject and there's a sound and there's a space between the sounds. So we do not rely on the sounds nor on the spaces in between the sounds, and there's nothing that we can rely on. So that where there is non-dependency, that where there is independence, that is the ultimate truth. So right now we're trying to learn about the ultimate truth. If we learn the ultimate truth, then it cannot be our experience, it cannot be our knowledge, it cannot be our intellect. And when we realize this truth, we cannot depend on anything whatsoever. And whatever we are seeing, if we see something that's not familiar to us anymore, it's not something that we see a moment before, it's just plain seeing, and every seeing is new, every seeing is refreshing, is ever refreshing, every hearing is new, ever hearing is ever refreshing, because everything is new. So you hear from a new sound to another new sound, because if you think that you hear this sound and then you hear the second sound, then it's still dependency. So the term non-dependency is just such a wonderful term. But what do you do so that you can be independent? Well, you cannot have a method, because once you have a method, and that is already dependency. As long as you have a practice method, then that is dependency. If there's something that you can abandon or to accept, then that means that you're also dependent. You must be dependent on something in order to reject something and or to accept something. But if you don't have anything to rely on, then there's no way that you can reject something or to accept something. But somehow us practitioners, we don't want to do that. There was a master who heard me giving a teaching on this, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Tue Hai is a foolish man, because I practice all my life so strenuously and I gain nothing, and now he told us not to do anything and to become independent." So actually, if we don't have knowledge, we don't have intellect, and we just plainly being as true reality, then what is it? It just means that we are independent. We don't know anything, we don't have intellect, and we don't have knowledge, we have never collected karmic imprints or habitual tendencies. Then we be emerging in true reality. It's as simple as that. So for example, if somebody covers your eyes and brings you to a place where you've never been before, and then they uncover your eyes, oh, you would be so surprised, you would be in awe, right? So we should try to live like that too. When we uncover our eyes, then all of a sudden everything became so beautiful, so wondrous, yet you don't know anything, because you don't rely on intellect, you don't rely on knowledge or on past experience. That is actually very simple, and this is the ultimate true right view. So you are able to penetrate this reality if you remain in a state of non-dependency. You don't rely on the Buddha's words, you don't rely on your master's words, you don't rely on books, on texts, or on your past knowledge. But because we keep relying on this, that's why we can never have the ultimate right view. But this is so easy. But why can you do that? Sometimes I wonder, why is it that people do not cannot accept this or receive this? It's even easier than eating a grain of rice. And there's we don't influence it. We don't influence it, and when we're independent, then we don't influence the conditions, we don't influence the appearances. So when the thoughts arise in our mind, then we don't influence the thoughts. When the thoughts appear, then we see it how it slowly become initiated, and then slowly and when the thought dissolve. So simply what we need to do is we don't influence anything, we become independent, and then that very vivid presence becomes the right view. So the right view is the recognition, the awareness of everything in our mind, everything in our body, everything is very spontaneous, everything is natural. And if you try to influence anything, then it's no longer right view. So it's not acceptance, it's not negation. It's not assessment. No, you cannot, because if you rely on assessment or on negation or on affirmation, then everything is a dependency, and all of that is no longer the ultimate right view of the Buddha Dharma. So it is very easy, but if you don't have this kind of right view, then you cannot go deeply in your practice. So you have to establish your foundation on that which is that which is independent. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, they talk about self non-dependence. So this is the true reality. This is true nirvana. Non-dependency is true nirvana. So ever since long time ago, during the Theravadin time, the Buddha already talked about this. Not that Zen direct awakening started talk about this, but ever since the Buddha had talked about the eightfold paths, the Buddha already talked about this, and then the 5 students were able to attain arhatship, and then the Buddha wanted to talk about this direct awakening, and the Zen masters later on knew about this and discovered about this, and they want to improve or to bring it out, and help people to understand it. And then in the past, the Buddha did talk about that which is non-practice, and that which is non-practice, non-dependency, that bring you to enlightenment. And these days we develop so many practices, so many methods to help us. But ever since the past, the Buddha had always talked about the ultimate right view, because the moment you have ultimate right views, there are no words. It's going to be wordless. Right at the ultimate right view, there are no words that can describe it. It's just the ultimate radiance, the ultimate purity, the ultimate clarity. When we are in a state of the mind when everything becomes radiant, becomes luminous, becomes clear, and every existence that is in this cosmos, we can see everything with clarity and see very thoroughly, and this is just the first step of having the ultimate true view. So all the sensation, all the seeing, all the viewing, that is based on nothing that is independent, then that is the true view. But the hearing, the seeing, if we still base those on our faculties, then that's not the right view. So those who transcend the faculties, then that is the right view. Because if you still base on the sense faculties, then you are still stuck with the definition or with the law or with the principles. So now we're not talking about the law, about the principles, or we are talking about the ultimate true view. So we don't talk about all those definitions. We're just talking about having a very simple mind that is non-dependent. So if our mind is very simple, it's very clear, and we don't rely on anything, we are not depending on anything, then that is true view. Because knowing awareness cannot rely on the subject object, and the subject object cannot rely on the knowing awareness. They don't cling to each other, so no one can cling to anything, and then all karmas, all dharmas in the universe ever since before has always been like this. So in the beginning we have to accept or to receive or to realize this non-dependency, and then later on we will see that all the dharmas in this cosmos, like what we have said in the Avatamsaka Sutra, is perfectly whole, perfectly complete. And if at any moment we are able to realize this non-dependency, then within a blink of an eye, we can transcend everything. Everything will become transcendental. You never be able to cling to anything anymore. You can never be attached to anything anymore. Even if we try to establish these thoughts or these sensations or emotions about love, or about attachment, about fear, about anger, you no longer be able to do that, because at the moment when you are able to realize this moment of dependency, you can never you can never bring back all the negative emotions. So that's why I'm saying that the moment of non-dependency is actually very wondrous, and I pray that all of you be able to be practitioners of non-dependency, where you don't depend on anything for your practice. You will be in a state of independent.
Namo Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the end of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue on the Majjhima Nikaya, the second of the 5 Nikayas or collections in the Sutta Pitaka. The interpreter takes full responsibility for all errors that are solely due to her limitations in English proficiency and in understanding the Dharma.